All right, if I can have your attention, let's call to order the Historic Preservation Board meeting for, what day is this? September 21st, 19. All right. First item up is roll call.
Chair Reeves,
Here.
Bill Warner,
Here.
Michelle Hazen. Here. Danielle Massey. Kyra Lucas. Present. Elizabeth Hausauer. Nicole Nasford. Elizabeth Hawk. Here. Michael Hill.
Here.
You have quorum.
Thank you. Mrs. Kaufman. Let's see. Next item up would be approval of the minutes.
Make a motion.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next item would be public comment. I'm not seeing any unless we have anybody online. You don't have a line today? Then there is no one. Okay, moving to the next item. Public hearing. Ms. Kaufman.
Yes, thank you. I don't have any public to swear in. But, so for those of you who might not have seen my email, For those of you who might not have seen my email, the items that you review, such as COAs and designations, are public hearings. And so for those types of items, it is kind of crucial that we swear in anybody providing testament to the board so that everyone involved is sure to get a fair and honest hearing, and so that they feel like their due process is being met. So that's why you have swearing in of the public, just for the public hearing items.
Okay.
But we can move on from that.
Okay.
There's nobody here to request a deferral either.
All right, the next item would, and the petitions you've got here, that's just public hearing items listed? Okay. Next item up would be old business?
No, we gotta do the public hearing one.
Okay.
You wanna open the public hearings.
Gotcha.
Do you want me to read the item into the record?
Usually that's
Okay.
how it works, that's why I was confused.
Okay. It is public hearing 1, petition HP 210064. This is a certificate of appropriateness to install fencing at 502 Northeast 8th Avenue. This is a non-contributing structure in the Northeast Residential Historic District. Would you like me to give the staff report?
Yeah, that would be good.
So, again, this is a non-contributing structure in the historic district. They came to you last month. There's already a perimeter wall around the property, but it's a very low wall. It's about 1.5 feet off the ground, as you can see in the photographs. And she wanted a 4-foot fence. It was over the allowable height for me to be able to do an administrative review. So she has reduced that fence request to 3 feet. It's still about 6 inches over what I could do administratively. But if she were to do a fence smaller than 3 feet, it's a custom fence, custom size, and gets kind of expensive. So the only reason she's not here is because she had a medical leave situation. So she's requesting that you consider giving her that 6-inch variance to put the fence on top of the existing wall. She does have dogs and would like to be able to contain them in the yard. And so my recommendation is that you approve the 6-inch variance.
Okay.
It is a metal picket fence, which is an allowable material for your historic districts per your guidelines.
Okay, questions or comment from the board?
I mean, she looks pretty good. She's got space in between the sidewalks.
Yeah, I think this is a significant improvement, and the 6 inches doesn't set a precedent.
Right. It's a unique situation.
Unique to the situation.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, we have no public comment on this item, so we can go ahead and go straight to a vote. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve HP 21-00064.
Okay. Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On to the next.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, may I proceed?
Yes.
Okay, this is public hearing number 2, petition HP 21-0086. This is a certificate of appropriateness to remove the exterior brick chimney located at 432 Southeast 7th Street. Now, this property is a contributing structure in the Southeast Residential District. Brick chimneys, especially exterior chimneys, are a supercritical character-defining feature of the house. This house in particular is a really nice example of wood frame vernacular or bungalow. It has its original Dutch drop siding that's really stunning, and it's got original double hung windows that are wood, and some interesting wood details in the eaves of the roof. And according to a building contractor, there's no apparent structural damage to the house. Now, the applicant is stating that the chimney is separating from the building and that the mortar is crumbling. And as you can see from the photographs, there has been some issue with what's happening inside, on the fireplace inside, and obviously there's some smoke and possible fire damage to the wall and ceiling there. But it is my recommendation that instead of approving this, that we deny it and get them to find out what it would cost for repair or versus reconstruction.
Based on what I'm seeing in the photograph, the one of the interior view of it, if you look at the way the ceiling's buckling down, I think that's all water damage from the roof.
It's flashing.
It's flashing, right. And that seems to be a big problem here, and that could even be contributing to the foundation settling on it. And that seems to be why it's pulling to me. Of course, this house probably has brick foundations and no concrete pad to begin with. But there may be a way that somebody, a contractor, could stabilize it to keep it from moving further and do some remediation to where it connects to the house. It doesn't look like it's beyond the point where it's going to fall down or anything like that. It's just my observation. Any other comments?
Yeah, I concur. I think that ordinary masonry maintenance is in order. Flashing appears to be the principal problem as it relates to the interior, and if it is tilting to the outside, that's a condition that can be arrested and even corrected. So
Yeah,
within reason.
it seems to be pretty minor.
Yep. So we've seen a lot worse than this.
That's the way I see it, yeah.
So
Okay,
with that,
anyone else?
Unless there was already like literally a hole in the wall, I wouldn't
no.
allow it. People knowledge.
Yeah, at least you get a second opinion at least.
Yeah.
Consider it. Yeah, I mean, get a second opinion at least, I mean, because if it can be saved, it can be saved, you know?
Okay,
Yep.
anybody else?
Okay.
Michelle?
So, yeah, I just did a quick Google search on this. I was trying to place the house. I mean, they have a lot of tree cover over this house too. That's probably contributing. You can see it in this one photo with the details. Probably just doing some tree work too. It definitely looks. I mean, I think now with the chimneys, it's not only the flashing. They do a little, what do you call that? They kind of kick back over the chimney, which would probably really help this. 'Cause
Yeah.
even though I'm not as concerned about, when you see a roof line like that, it's not that, you know, they're showing this kind of cracking that's happening between the siding, but, you know, realistically, the roof is kind of also kind of holding that in. It has the historic one, so it seems
Yeah.
to me like just some roof repair.
Flashing is what's failed.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah, and maybe just, you know, to being thoughtful to kind of trim some of those trees off and allow it to dry out a bit too. Seems like,
I imagine the chimney, like you said, like you're saying, there's probably a lot of water on that lot.
Well, and the other thing is, it appears to be the old Gainesville Campbell brick, which is very porous. And if it's got water coming down from the tree limbs above, that's gonna leach in through the interior. But the fact the ceiling's buckled down tells me it's a flashing leak primarily. Okay?
You know, my additional comment would be to recommend consideration of a cricket on the hot
Cricket,
side
that's
of
the word.
Yeah.
Chimney.
Yeah.
Recommend what?
Cricket.
cricket.
Does
That's the
everybody
word I was
know?
thinking, they kind of kick, like a little
All right.
kickback
The
on the
only
other
thing-
side of the
Okay,
chimney.
one of us does not know what a cricket is. It would be like a gable end where the gable faces the chimney wall, so you do not have water, especially water at the bottom of the roof, creating hydrostatic pressure on flashing, and it diverts the water away to the sides of the chimney.
If you excuse me, the only point I would make, though, is the chimney part of this is reduced at the top. It's only 16 by 16, so a cricket would be,
It'd still be helpful.
it'd be minimal,
They're very small.
8 inches on either side.
At least the width of it, but
Yeah.
that would go a long way to minimize any likelihood of intrusion.
Okay, Michelle, do you have something else?
Yeah, because the cricket is on the back side of the chimney, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
kind of a little kickback, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I wouldn't make that recommendation. I would just leave that up to, and
Well,
you can leave it to the
My
roofer,
recommendation is that they take that into consideration.
but not a requirement. Because
No,
the roofer will tell them if there's any point in doing that or not.
Right.
Okay? All right?
Okay.
No further comments, so no public comment?
Move to approve HP 21-00086.
That'd be a denial, right?
I mean, deny. Move
To approve the denial.
Deny.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Unanimous.
All right.
When we deny something like that, are those recommendations given to them?
Yes, I send them a letter, yeah.
Mhm.
Because I know that most of the time we have to say with these recommendations specifically.
But there were some good things.
Well,
So
yeah.
I think it'd be helpful to pass that along.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would do that. Okay. Next, that brings us to old business. Is there old business?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay. We're working this out.
Unless I have something written there, I don't have anything.
Okay, so, no old business, and next item is new business. I'm not seeing anything either.
No.
Okay, informational items.
So I did send you a link we are working on possible revisions to the comprehensive plan,
Yes.
and one of them, it's not really a preservation element, but it does include historic preservation and items as well as arts and culture, and it's kind of together. And this is really, we don't need to discuss it right here, but I would encourage you to look at that one chapter that says arts, culture, and preservation, or our cultural identity is what it's called. And if you've got recommendations, if you've got language you would like to see in there, if you feel something is kind of missing, this is the time for us to really dig into that and have our input into it.
Okay. that sounds great.
When is that being finalized?
So we're supposed to kind of get back with the consultant that's helping put that together in another month with some feedback. It's not going to be done by next month, but
I asked because I have 3 chapters of my dissertation right this week.
yeah, no, you don't
If it was
need,
this week, it's not gonna
you
happen.
don't need it.
Okay. But before the next board meeting.
For the next board meeting, okay.
Okay. Okay.
Actually, your next board meeting isn't that far away.
Actually, you're right. Maybe next week. Okay. Good point to everybody. All right, next item up is board comments. Kathleen,
Now, staff has comments.
staff has comments. Okay.
Do you want to take one and pass it down? Actually, the girls get to pick their colors first.
Okay. As long as I don't end up with paint. Yeah, I can't see that. Pick one, Bill.
Okay.
Thank you.
You get the same choices I did.
See, I'm green and sustainable.
Now, this is a sort of interactive exercise. So you're gonna put your pencil pouch in the front of your binders.
Oh,
These
boy.
ours?
Well, that's really up to you, but I'm about to tell you what's in here. So, the first thing we're gonna do is, if you flip to your blue tab, have you seen those in a while? Those are your guidelines.
Oh, yeah, I've been there.
And if you flip to the first page of your table of contents, I'm actually gonna hand you a replacement page because you don't have any page numbers on the very sections you need to be referring to.
Oh, it would have to be right here.
Oh, gotcha.
Go to the first page of the, you're just replacing. But I wrote in the page numbers.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, okay, right here.
You see, the places you need to be able to go to have no page numbers. So, I have provided that for you. Does Richard page out?
Where is it? I'm losing it.
It's two in, go.
2 in, gotcha. There it is.
When you said the first page, I'm like, oh yeah, it's after the,
Okay, somebody's helping us.
yeah, I know, right? What is this?
Thank you.
We actually have, yeah, we actually have something to reference now.
You put yours in already?
Yeah, I got one.
Okay, sheet.
Okay,
Got two
now if you
somehow.
go back to your pencil pouch, inside your pencil pouch, there is a little strip of stickers that go to your tabs. So I'm going to tell you what each of your tabs are for, and you can write that in as you wish. Oh, yeah. You didn't get one?
No, I did not.
Oh.
You said the girls get to pick first, I was
You
waiting.
know what? You were very good. Pass it up. You get gator colors or pink?
Pass me pink. I'll do that one, you know what I mean?
Gosh, I love it.
Nice pink though.
Yeah, I know, it's like a little magenta, you know? Alright, let's do this. So you said inside, there's tabs.
There's a little thing of tabs.
Okay.
Okay, so your first tab, your red tab, this is your rules of procedure. So you could just call it rules or rules of procedure. This is basically like how you're supposed to run your meetings and quorum and who gets elected to the board and that kind of thing.
And these things actually do peel off, right?
Yeah. I don't know if I had to do that, or. Let's see.
There we go. Alrighty.
Oh, it's a sticker.
It's a sticker, yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, they're stickers, if you haven't figured that out.
Took me a little bit.
Yeah.
Is it smudging?
It was smudging.
Okay, your second tab is your ordinances. So you can write ordinances, and I say plural because your basic historic preservation board framework is in one place in the land development code. Your language for your tax exemption is in another place in the taxation code. And then your board makeup and all that kind of stuff is in yet another place. So here they are all together
Great.
for you.
Blow on it.
Blow, blow, blow.
Okay, ready? Very not COVID friendly.
Your third tab, blue tab, is your guidelines. And of course, this is what we are utilizing when we're reviewing all of our COA applications and the other things that come before you. These guidelines are based on the Secretary of the Interior standards. So these guidelines are very well fleshed out, and I know over the years from you using them, you may have thoughts and ideas of even how to improve upon these, or things that you found might be missing or not addressed. But for the most part, these are quite thorough. But you know, always room for improvement down the road. Now your orange tab are your standards. You can just write standards for brevity, but it's the Secretary of the Interior's standards for rehabilitation, if you really want to get technical. And this is what I printed for you in here is really only the introduction to the standards, the 10 standards, the actual standards, and then they had a really great brief synopsis of how the guidelines are used and where they came from. But this is not the entire book. Like, the entire book is another 2-inch, document.
Of course.
So, but I've always thought that this introduction and sort of the brief overview of where this even came from, when they were developed, and why they were developed is so useful to you, because these 10 standards are what we base everything off of. Okay, the cream tab, you could just call it takings law or takings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's important.
Now, this document and the subsequent document, which we're going to just go over in a second, these two items are, I was taught these at University of Florida Grad School in preservation law with Roy Hunt, and everywhere I've been, these have been two really important documents written particularly for historic preservation commissions. So it's really, really good stuff. You don't, I know it's a lot of reading. I don't need you to read it all now, but you might want to flip through this sometime. Because, why? because we are always discussing people's properties and property rights, and a lot of people are like, well, you can't do this and you can't, but actually, you know, you can, as long as you are doing it in the right process and within the legal framework. Preservation is absolutely considered good for the community and good for the people. So the takings law, because everybody likes to throw out, oh, you're taking my property, or you might hear a lot of this Burt J. Harris stuff, right? Oh, the Burt J. Harris Act. Well, there's a lot of Supreme Court legislation that supports historic preservation, and that's good for you. The green tab, you could just call it due process, DUE, due process. And this is the other document that was specifically written for historic preservation commissions and produced by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. This is such good stuff. But maybe this is just the kind of stuff that I get excited reading about. I don't know, it's kind of weird, but so good. Like, what kind of records do you need to keep, and how do you give people due process, and what is the correct way for you to be thinking about and considering these applications, because it is people's private property. So how do you do that, and how do you come to decisions that are good for the historic district and good for the community, but still fair to the property owner? So that's really good stuff. And then we have 2 more tabs to be filled in soon as I find more stuff to give you. But that is it for now. You don't have to bring these every meeting, but you know, you might want to have at your fingertips your actual guidelines or the ordinance, because sometimes we refer back to the ordinance quite a bit. Well, does the COA allow this or that, you know, but I will always have one, so just in case you don't. But I think it's all really good stuff for you to have. And it's been my experience, and I'm sorry about killing the trees, but it's been my experience that if you give documents like this to people online, it's not going to ever be really looked at. So, and then the other thing I provided to you was just, I like to provide my Historic Preservation Board members items of interest, and these are simply news items that I come across locally, but also just maybe around the state, if it's something I think you should be aware of. Because sometimes we get so bogged down with the politics and the things that are happening in our own town that you don't realize other preservation commissions are dealing with the same thing, or here's something cool this community did, or, you know, so it's nice to be able to see preservation in kind of a broader scale. So I will try to provide these to you every month too.
Can I comment on one of these
Sure.
articles that you included? In the, there's an article that she included from 2007.
Was it from the Sun?
Yeah, Gainesville Sun, and it's talking about saving Gainesville's historic districts. And I've got to say, you know, this is an interesting one because it's talking about the duck pond and the one to the southeast of downtown are relatively well maintained and improving. It says our oldest preserved African American area around Pleasant Street is somewhat decrepit, but being apparently redeveloped with the help of various government programs. I think that's really interesting. As we all know, there's been a lot of infill, and I think we've approved a lot of that projects, and so we are far from where we were in 2007, so bravo.
Very true.
In a good way. Yeah. I thought it was interesting. In a short time.
Sarah Lemon, do you remember her, Jay?
Yeah, she was on the board.
Wow.
That's all I have for you.
Yeah, but you got voted.
I just want to say these binders are fabulous. I feel like this type of thing is exactly what someone is given when they join a board like this, and it's kind of like a how-to guide. And even if you know architecture or landscape architecture or history or real estate, you may not know the ins and outs of the actual policies and procedures. So this made my day. I was like, I'm
Yeah,
so
it's very
excited about
valuable.
this. And I also just want to say how thankful I am you are here. I feel like you've kind of given us a breath of life. We
Agreed.
really, really needed a historic preservation officer to really do the heavy lifting for us because so many of us are full-time employed. And the last thing I wanted to ask is if, in one of the articles you gave us, it was about our recent board, and I was wondering if we could get an update at the next meeting, maybe on the 5 articles that Commissioner Johnson had passed at our joint meeting back in, I think it was October of last year.
Yes.
Just kind of where historic preservation is as an equity issue. They're all in that article. I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but just if we could kind of get an update on those items, because I think those were the things that were really important to us and the commission. So I appreciate you and thank you so much for being here.
No, you're very welcome, but I don't expect you to have to go through these on your own. This is really something that should be like a separate board workshop, but, and I don't want that to be too tedious either. I want you to feel like, okay, I could spend an hour and a half, 2 hours with lunch or something, learning about this stuff, and because I love to show people, look, here's where in the ordinance, here's what you gotta, this is what this says about this, and this is your section on this, and that sort of thing. So I don't expect you to like go home and read all this and be like, oh my gosh. If you were gonna read anything on your own, to begin with, the last 2 documents were really meant to be sort of a layperson's version, an overview of procedural due process in the takings law. So you could start there, but I didn't want to do that here at this meeting, obviously, but I do eventually want to be able to sit with you all and kind of go through our ordinance and you know, get some feedback on how you think it's effective or not effective, because we also have an opportunity to maybe do something with the ordinance.
I think the only other thing that I can think of that would be really helpful for us as a board, and I know we have talked about this, about some community, you know, because I know we're always asked, well, what are we allowed to do, staff approval for fencing and roofs? I mean, I don't know if there's something that we can put out to the public. Here's what you need approval for. Here's what you don't need approval for. You know, obviously you can paint, you know, whatever your house, whatever color you want. I think when people get into a district, just having something to be able to provide to them that says, here, you know, here's what you're going to need approval and here's what you don't.
Yeah, the department used to have like a basic flyer, but that's way outdated and could be updated for sure. But it would be so nice to be able to have just even a trifold, something that could be mailed to every historic district.
And even if we don't provide it, if we had, you know, something available that we could give to the realtors to provide, you know.
I just think a link on the city website
Yeah,
would
that
be
too.
more than adequate. I mean, again, saving trees, I mean, you know, it's just something we could say, here, go here, and here's gonna be the information that you need. City of Gainesville, Historic Preservation, if you search that, you're gonna see exactly what you need.
Okay.
Got it. That's all I have, Chair. Mr.
Okay, thank you, very good. Next meeting date, Tuesday, October 5th, coming right up.
And at the moment, I think we only have 4, maybe 5 applications on that.
Ooh, so we're gonna have a short one, that's good. All right, if there is nothing else, adjournment. We are adjourned.